Now, a couple of weeks ago, we were in Bowlers. It was an entertaining night. It's always an entertaining night, Bowlers. It was the launch of our academy, and we had Stephen Bellos running around, and we had a woman running around with me, and it all was all perfect. It looked lovely. It was terrific. It was visual. Now, there was a couple of fighters on that sort of stick in the memory. And there was a corner man and fighter double act that caused me to stop for a second. I had to look really closely because it was really odd. And the reason why it was odd is that the fighter looked a little bit like the corner man used to fight. And the corner man, because he's well preserved, looks about the same age as the fighter. And it was causing me all sorts of grief. It really was. I mean, I was there, and you could see it. If you remember, looking back on the show, I was a bit shocked. I'm watching it. It was really unnerving, really sort of unnerving. Anyway, I managed to get the pair of them down here, please. Tommy Coyle, unbeaten, and the man who was in the corner that night, Stephen Smith, please.
Thank you very much.
Is that it? No cheers or anything? They travelled all the way down from Hull. They've been on the road for 3 days on their ponies. What sort of noise is that? Like status quo sound check. Sorry about that, Tommy. Sorry about that noise. Steve, thanks for coming in. I'll start with you, Tommy. First of all, have you ever seen Stephen fight in the flesh? Or have you watched DVDs?
Yeah, I went down to the Elephant and Castle all them years ago and watched Steve fight Bobby Vansley.
Oh, the British title. That was an ugly old thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, but because you do have a lot of Stephen style moves. Have people told you that before?
A few people have, yeah.
It was a compliment.
Yeah, Steve was a good fighter. I liked Steve's his style and his work ethic in the ring. You know, he was a busy fighter, and yes, Steve was a good fighter.
What about that? You know, when you're training fighters now, you're training fighters, because a lot of fighters train loads of fighters. You know, Angelo Dundee, who never boxed, certainly never box like Muhammad Ali. Yeah. And I'm trying to think of ex-pros that train fighters who end up looking like them, and I can't really think of any. If you can at home, tweet them in. It's quite simple. It's at Big Daddy Bunce, or you can email me, which is bunce@boxnation.com. If you can think of any trainers, ex-fighters, who train their fighters in to be basically mini-me's, because I'm not sure if you've made a conscious effort, but he does throw some of the same punches you throw.
Yeah, I mean, the fight. Possibly you are right in that context, but more than anything, I try and instill in all my fighters: make sure you miss punches and you're landing with punches, and you're the busiest of the fighters. So that's what I try and instill in them more than anything.
But it's also, I mean, maybe it's the fact that you look quite similar. I mean, if you stand up, looking at you there, you're not a million miles away from each other. So when I saw him throwing that sort of half, sort of bowlerish style shot, and I'm squinting and going, I've seen him throw that since he was 12. Now Tommy's throwing it. It's quite interesting. Yeah. Steve, how did you turned pro in Germany?
Yeah,
is that
correct.
because your dad Darky was based out there?
Well, yeah, basically I got offered a good deal to go with Salon Promotions at the time, and it was the best deal on the table for me, really. Although Frank Maloney and Frank Ron were interested, I just thought it was a good way of me to get out of the country and just hone all my skills. And the thing with fighting in England is you just fight English opponents. If you're fighting in Germany, I was boxing Russians, Mexicans, Americans, so I had a complete diverse of different styles.
And fighting on some of those big early
Massive
German bills, because they only had big shows then. They've still nearly only got big shows now.
The first show I boxed in front of 5,000, and the next show was in front of 20,000 people. So. And the biggest crowd I ever boxed in front of was in 50,000 in Borussia Dortmund football stadium.
And who was top of the building? It was one of the
Axel
Zelko.
Schultz.
Schultz and...
Schultz and Mora.
Schultz and Mora, yeah. I was there that night. I've forgotten you fought that night. It was when it rained.
Yeah, that's it.
Because I actually watched that. Listen, Tom, it was back in the day in Germany, a little bit more leeway. If you were a British journalist, you could sort of do a little bit what you liked. And I watched that fight from the apron. And if you ever see film of it, I'm kneeling on the apron because there wasn't much of a canopy. Yeah. So if you sat in the ringside seats, you got wet. So I was actually like this.
You're trying to keep dry.
With the photographer, I don't want to get wet. I mean, I was a fairly stylish man in my day, Tom, and I didn't want to get wet. You know what I'm saying? So I was, a lot of air back then. Not like now. That was a strange old career then, starting. Yeah. Were you living in Germany or just commuting to fight almost?
I was actually living over there in Cologne. We had an apartment there. We had a good training set up over there, so We had physios on hand. We had a fantastic training facility, which was right next to the Cologne University, Sports University. So we had everything on hand there.
Have you stayed in touch with the Sauerland since?
No, I haven't spoke to them for many years.
Okay, because they've still got, you know,
I know.
Fighters go out there and fight on.
I was very friendly with the two boys.
Yeah, because the boys wouldn't be much different to your age, would they?
Yeah, they were around the
Calla
same
and
age.
Nissa, yeah. What are you, about 38? 30s? Yeah, they're about your age. They're like mid to late 30s, yeah. So, Tommy, have you thought about taking Tommy over to Germany?
We have spoke about it, haven't we?
Definitely.
We spoke about it a few times.
Yeah. Have you been actually on the road training at all, Tom? Have you anything planned like that?
We have actually. I mean, Steve's arranged for me to go over to New York, fly out there on the 5th of July. I'll spend 3 nights there, 2 nights, and then I'll go over to Vegas for 4. And we're just hoping to pick up some sparring, you know, and maybe pick up some different training techniques, and, you know, just pick up some experience, really.
Yeah, because it can work, it can rub off in the gym. I don't think going overseas, any country, is the beginning and end. I don't think you can say, oh, I'm going to go to Mexico, or I'm going to go to Vegas. No. But it has to help you to a degree.
Most definitely. Well, we started straight away when I took on Tommy. We went to Manchester and was sparring in Joe Gallagher's gym with John Murray and Anthony Corolla, and we've just travelled all over for sparring.
Yeah, I mean, that's people tend to forget that we've got some really busy gyms, you know, around there. I mean, obviously Gallagher's gym, which you're talking about there.
It's a great opportunity to learn in them type of gyms.
There is, yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily, you know. I think it's not the case that the only gyms that are any good are in Vegas. Sometimes fight gyms in Vegas are empty because there's nothing happening.
Yeah. We're very fortunate as well because the person who promotes and manages Tommy, Steve Woods, he has many fighters that we actually work
he
with
does
as
like
well.
a round robin every Saturday, doesn't he? You can go down there, jump in the ring, spar all types of different kids. You know, there's just some good learning curves down there.
He's got an awful lot of fighters, Steve, as well.
Yeah,
I like him. He's a good guy.
He looks after him.
Yeah, he does. He's a good manager.
Yeah. So now you've been out since the Bowlers fight, haven't you? Been out once.
for last Friday.
Bashed up Sid Razak.
Yeah,
he's like a hero in this show. He's like an institution on Box Nation, Sid Razak.
I don't think I could have knocked him out of a kitchen sink, to be fair. He's a tough old boy. He took some big shots, and he does, doesn't he? Soaked him up, and, you know, he come back with a few as well.
But you know what? If you don't put Sid Razak under pressure, and he starts to throw that big right hand and stuff, he literally launches it from down here. That can hurt, you know, if he catches you with it. You've got to be a bit careful with him.
Absolutely.
He's clever like that, isn't he? But stay there, fellas. I've got a couple of guests in the studio. They're driven down from Hull. They're going back to Hull this evening. There's Stephen Smith, who's not originally from Hull, and we're going to ask him how he ended up in Hull, and Tommy Coyle. Now, Tom, you're boxing at lightweight. You've been up sparring with Ricky Burns once or twice?
Yeah, I sparred him not long back for the Moses fight. Fantastic experience.
How was he in the build-up?
Sharp as ever. I'll tell you that firsthand.
He's
fantastic.
He's not a kid that goes through the motions, is he?
Everything, absolutely not.
Everything with him is serious.
100 mile an hour. 100 mile an hour. You know, every shot's a big shot, and I was really surprised by his defence. His defence is immaculate.
That's interesting.
And, you know, he's got interestingly long arms, so when he covers up, when you back him up, his elbows come right down to, you know, to his hips. There ain't much.
So he's a better fighter sometimes than people give him credit for.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he's a tremendous fighter, and his work ethic in the gym is you know, it's.
And what about you, Tom? What you got coming up? You got an English title fight? One of those.
Hull City Hall, September the 28th. I'm fighting Martin Geffen for the vacant English title. So tough fight for me. Yeah. But like I say, preparing hard, and I'm ready for it.
Yeah, preparing hard. You've had a couple of hardish fights. I mean, you fought a lot of those guys. You know, the good losers, the top journeymen.
I've done my apprenticeship.
Yeah, you're ready now. Is that a fair comment?
Absolutely, it's a very fair comment. I've done my apprenticeship, and now it's time to you know, get myself out there and fight who they put in front of me. Yeah. And you know, I think I'm comfortable in doing that now. And
weight-wise, because you're biggest. You okay at lightweight?
Yeah. I make the weight easy, you know. Got Steve, he's been there and done it, so nutrition side of things, you know, we make the weight easy.
Did you make the weight easy, Steve? You know, when you were boxing, was it comfortable for you?
Yeah, to make, like when I was making lightweight, it was easy, but making lightweight was really my weight.
How did you end up in Hull? Because you're out in Germany, and then you come back, and suddenly I couldn't work it out because you seem to be from, you know, even though you're fighting in London, you were from Hull suddenly, not Kentish Town.
What happened was Paul Ingle was fighting Nassim Hamed And so because Naz was a southpaw and I was a southpaw and I slightly boxed like him, they brought me up for sparring, for southpaw sparring. So, and that's why I went up there first of all. But I fell in love with the place, really, to be honest. I love it up there.
It's a good place to be.
And I just thought best get up there because I couldn't afford anything in London. Cheaper place to live.
You know what? I've been in Hull, right? I've been in Scarborough, and I love them. And I've been to a lot of fights up there with Nutty so-and-so. I was about to swear then. Tony Booth, obviously, and also with Paul. Yeah. And it's tough up there. It's hard up there. It was hit hard. Yeah. You know, it's the unemployment's hit hard up there. And I tell you what, I've met a lot of people, and there's a very small group of them that said, I fell in love with Hull. That's something you don't hear every day of the week.
Characters what are amongst the place.
Listen, and characters make a place, man.
We've got. I must admit as well, Tommy. We've got the best supporters. You know, he'll pack out that venue.
You couldn't ask for better support from the city we're from. Honest to God.
Oh.
You know,
everybody wants
the first
to see
in queue for tickets, and you know the reception I get when I walk out there. It's like
I'm having it. What time is it in September? What date?
I think you're coming down anyway.
Yeah, so
hopefully
it'll be one of ours. Hopefully, if it's not one of ours,
well, it is. I'm sure it is.
You know, I can. I like odd nights. Grimsby, I like a night in Grimsby. Now listen, to Tommy, listen, it's been a pleasure and a delight coming down.
Pleasure coming down.
Steve, listen, we're not going to show any film of you fighting Ricky Hatton, okay? They wanted to. Leave off. I said I've known the kid since he was about 12. I don't want him getting whacked on the chin. But just talk us through that fight. Big fight, Ricky Hatton. Yeah. MEN, Ricky's using his usual things, left hook, right elbow, left head, right head, all the usual Ricky stuff, left shoulder, right shoulder, you cut, you hurt, you caught, and then Darky, your dad, jumps in the ring. What went through your mind at that time?
I was a bit shocked, a bit bemused and everything, and it's not something a fighter wants to go through. Do you know what I mean? You want to, if you're going to get beat, you're going to get knocked out and laid out, not like that.
On your shield.
So you would go out, exactly, you want to go out on your shield. And it was the most embarrassing night for me. And it took me a year and a half to speak to my father again, so it wasn't a good time for me. But, you know, I forgived him, and I think being a father myself now, I understand why he did what he did, but you just, as a trainer, now being a trainer, I couldn't ever, you know, and being a fighter myself, so...
Because he was with you last weekend when you fought Darky was back. So Darky, Stevie and Tommy together. What a triple act that is.
Yeah, he was voicing his opinion in the changing room, wasn't he? But he's a good guy. We love him to bits.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, he does voice his opinion. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you in,
Thanks
Tommy
for having us
Coyle.
down.
Stephen Smith, thanks very much. September, we think Tommy fights on Box Nation. I think I've seen a date in there in Hull. I'm probably not meant to say it, but let's hope it is on Box Nation. If not, hopefully Steve Wood will sell out the place, and if I can't get up there, we'll certainly speak to Tommy before or after. Stephen, Tommy, thanks very much. We're going to have a break now. We're going to come back after the break, and then we're going to carry on talking to people. I've got some special stuff for anybody who's a fan of the Albanian Eagle. Get ready, because we will have not only the Eagle in the house, we'll have the Anthem in the house. You're watching Steve Bunce on Box Nation. See you in a second.